When it comes to EVE Online, every player wants to know the most effective tactic available. You want to know the meta. The meta controls everything. It determines what will and will not happen. Knowing the meta will alter your views, make you question your reality. It might even make you laugh. And now, you're part of it. You're watching the Meta Show.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Meta Show. As you can see, I've got Dave Archer, the other host of the Meta Show, with me today, as well as Viktor, the gallant FC of Hard Knox. As some of our viewers may or may not know, over the last weekend, there was a big wormhole eviction that took place over at Keepstar in Jace, or Wormhole Space, J Space, right? I'm saying that right. It's been a while since there's been a wormhole, so forgive me. I'm a dirty K-Spacer now. But we're going to talk to Viktor a little bit about what happened there, how much did they make, a little bit of the backstory and drama that may have gone into, like there always is, and being the bullies and kicking someone out, kicking a sandcastle over and kick them out of their home. But before we get into that, I'm going to take a little bit of a minute here. This is something I'm passionate about, and it's about RMT in EVE Online. Okay. And if those of you aren't aware what RMT stands for, it's real money trading. It's an issue in the game because there's Plex. We can buy Plex with money. So of course there's going to be people who are going to allow you to go and buy ISK online somewhere, that kind of thing. Here's a support article that goes into, I'm dropping in the chat for everybody, of what RMT is in EVE Online and some of the penalties that go behind it. But what brought my attention to RMT and why we're going to talk about it a little bit today before we talk to Viktor, and of course, Viktor, I'm sure will have some opinions on RMT himself, is there was a recent post that Norris of Fraternity, the great leader of Fraternity, had posted about his life, his story, his journey on EVE Online that was posted to Reddit. And in this post, Norris calls out that basically there was some path to redemption where CCP, as most of you know, a little bit of backstory, Norris had been banned for RMT. But recently he's claiming that he is no longer banned and he can play the game again. Now, he can't get his stuff back or anything else along those lines. He says he's no longer going to be banned. And Norris has gone on through Reddit over the last year or two, that kind of thing, and stated in several places that he's been able to avoid the ban for RMT and avoid what's going on. But I'm going to drop this chat in here as well, the Reddit post specifically around where Norris, feel free to read it at your leisure. Encourage you to read it. It's a good read overall. Norris, I don't think, is a bad guy, but this brings in a question of, is there a path to redemption for us when it comes to if you were to get caught up in RMT? The first link that I gave you, there's kind of a progressive punishment if you get caught buying ISK, if you get caught buying accounts or whatever's from somewhere else. First events, you lose everything. Second event, you get a 7-day ban. Third time, it's a permanent ban. Now, this was published in 2004 or 2024. I haven't seen CCP release anything that provides a path to redemption. Okay. I think I can speak for the community and those of us here, like, if there's a path to redemption from a permanent ban, I think we should know, right? Like, we would want to know, like, hey, is there a way for me to get unbanned? Like, what does that process looks like? Full transparency from CCP. And when we talk about transparency, like, one of the things that we haven't seen in a long time from CCP, and I'm going to drop another link. Got a lot of reading material for you today, Chad. I know I'm talking a lot here. Got a lot of reading material for you to go through. But this was the last security review that CCP gave us in 2021 to 2022. This is the last time CCP showed us how many accounts were banned for RMT, for botting, which I think we all hate botting, right? You go out on a roam somewhere and you're flying through somebody's space and the dude's warped off from ratting before you can even populate and load yourself in. So it begs a question. have we lost some transparency from CCP? Is it a focus anymore for them? Or are they more concerned with, and they are business. Norris creates a lot of content. We can't really argue with that. And it's whether you like frat or you don't like frat, it is fun content usually. Is CCP making a decision here to allow someone to come back and play the game because of what they bring to the community and everything else like that? They screwed up a few times. And is that something that me, Victor here, Dave, you, our viewers, are able to also do and say, petition and be like, hey, you know what? I don't believe I deserve this permanent ban. This isn't fair, that kind of thing. Can we get rid of it? And I encourage you as a community, we want to know, like, I want things to be fair. The world sucks and is unfair as it is. We come and play EVE Online. We have a set of rules, that kind of thing, and it's fair, not fair. And JD, I see that you said, who's Norris? Norris is the
executor,
leader of fraternity. Yeah, he's the executor of fraternity. Okay, he is the end all, say all, the guy that put it all together. He is the equivalent of Asher here for the Imperium and Goons. He is our version of Asher for fraternity. So he is the leader of that group. Very big figure for those of you who know. If you don't know him, again, like I said, like he leads frat there. So he has a lot of sway. One of the biggest, if not the biggest alliance in EVE Online. I think they hold the most SOV. So definitely have a lot of influence in the game. I don't know, Dave, if they do or not.
I think they do hold the most SOV. They're not the biggest alliance, though. We took that medal back after our move. But
yeah,
one of my issues with this whole thing is I know of people, I don't personally know them, but I know of people that have evaded bans and then had all their other accounts banned that they've evaded on. But I can think of two instances. One of them was eventually banned, which was GigX, which, don't care what you think, what he did should never be unbanned and should never be allowed to evade it, but he managed it for years. And yeah, the other one is Norris. And I think to go around bragging that you've got banned accounts and not to get banned just because you lead an alliance is wrong. It should be one rule for everyone. So if he can do it, they should allow other people, as you said, to redeem themselves and do it. And if what his post says is true and CCP has allowed him to do it, then they should release a policy on how other people can do it, not just go, you run the biggest alliance, you're great, your people make us money, you can stay unbanned. Now, I like CCP. I know a lot of people there. They're great people. But this is something they need to clarify, because he's come out on Reddit publicly to say they've allowed me to play again on my alts, which is something that's against the rules. So they need to change their policy or clarify it for everyone else. Because if I bet you anything, if Asher did it, he would not get the same treatment. Hell, even if Gobbins did it, probably not get the same treatment.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're really asking. I'm not trying to sit here and say CCP stinks and boo, they're being unfair. There's probably details, and coming from a background in the industry that I work in my real life, there's probably details that we're not privy to. But I think what we're asking, what I'm asking here on the Meta Show, and I think what a lot of the community who has seen this and been rubbed the wrong way about it is, can we get some clarity, maybe some transparency? Have the terms and conditions changed? If so, what is that path to redemption for everybody else on EVE Online? And Victor, I'm going to give you a chance. And real quick, Vic, I want you to introduce yourself to our chat for those of you for those who are watching who don't know who you are, and then give us your thoughts on it. I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Victor. I'm one of the FCs and a director for Hard Knox. And yeah, on this discussion, I understand the frustration, right? Because clearly there is not a lot of clear communication from CCP on the subject. And I do agree as well with what you said about like GigX, for example, right? Like some cases of bans, like GigX's ban when it comes to like threatening someone with like real life harm. That's clearly something that we do not want in the game and should be banned forever. But personally, I have seen people who were banned in the past get kind of like, start a new account, play for a few years, and then CCP kind of like, they know and they let them, right? And this is mostly bans that are less extreme, right? In the case of Noraus, I do not know the specifics, right? But from what I understand, it was buying ISK for real money, right? Like RMTing by buying. I, of course, it's bad for the game, but I see it as a relatively minor offense, and I do believe in redemption in the sense that, like, you do it, it's bad, you get banned, and that is completely fair, right? After a few years, you start playing again, you play again for a bit, you don't do anything bad, and CCP turns a blind eye. I think that is fair as well for these kind of, like, what I see as minor bans compared to stuff like GigX, which is like a real life threat, right? I do completely agree that there should be a lot more clarity from CCP, right? Where they say that a ban is a ban, but then they turn a blind eye towards some players. And I know from personal experience that Noros is not an exception. I've seen players that are not like famous or notorious get the same treatment. But I do understand that a lot of players, they will see this Reddit post, right? And they'll be like, hello, that's so unfair. Like, why is this guy getting preferential treatment? Is it just because he's a leader in fraternity, etc.? Yeah, of course, that's not a good thing. And CCP should be a lot more clear about their communication and what to do in these kinds of cases. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's really, Vic, what I think I want to see. And I agree. Like, the big picture is buying ISK off of a website, the end of the world. If CCP allowed it to happen, it would kill the game. Like, if it was say, oh, yeah, it's not illegal anymore, you can do it. It would kill EVE Online. We wouldn't have a game anymore. But it's, in some sense, the only victim there really is CCP, because you can buy ISK by buying Plex through the game. So, I mean, arguably the act of buying ISK is legal in the game, just not through third parties and buying it on a dime on the dollar or whatever it may be, that kind of thing, a lot cheaper somewhere else. So it is big scheme, big picture, probably not the most,
heinous,
whatever kind of, heinous of crimes. So if there is a path to redemption, to your point, I think we all want to know what does that look like? Is there that clarity? Like, spell that out for us. And if it's somewhere, if somebody knows, like, you're on CCP's website right now and you're scrolling through the forums or whatever, and CCP provides a path, we'd love to see it and put that out to the community so they know, and move forward there. But I think that the real thing comes from, to your point, it looks like the leader of fraternity got a little bit of a preferential treatment, and that kind of sucks. That stings a little bit, right? But I don't want to spend too much time on this because, Vic, we did bring you here to talk about wormholes, not RMT. And Dave, let's go ahead and transition into our main story today. I think I said it.
and we're back.
Awesome. So our top story today is, if you didn't know, there was a little bit of a wormhole fight. And normally, like, you probably raise your eyebrow and be like, oh man, Keith, why are we talking about wormhole fights? It's like small fish compared to nullsec. But in this wormhole fight, based on the battle report, Dave, pull the battle report up that we saw, it was a little over 1 trillion ISK that was
lost on one side.
Wormhole fight. Yeah, on one side alone, a little bit over 1 trillion ISK. So definitely not a small fight. This was over several days, by the way. I'm pretty sure I looked through this battle report. This wasn't just like the main fight. And we'll kind of break down what that looked like with Vic. But Vic, I want you to tell us, where's Hard Knox been before this fight? Tell us a little bit about Hard Knox and your guys' group and what you guys have been doing leading up to this.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, we're a high-class wormhole corporation, of course, right? We used to be very, very active in wormholes. We were quite well known for playing in wormhole space anywhere in the past 10 years. But I think 2 or 3 years ago, at some point, a bunch of changes happened to wormhole space. A lot of our leadership started getting burnt out, and was really not anyone to take over. So we decided to just disband the entire corporation, right? Instead of like dragging it on and like slowly dying down. And then about 1.5 years ago, Laserhawks, who are kind of like our old-term allies, who'd been our allies for many, many, many years, got attacked by another group in wormhole space, and they messaged us and we're like, hello, this is happening, are you guys interested? So we decided to reform the group, initially with the idea of just playing for that war where Laserhawks got attacked. Well, we'll play for the war, and then we'll go back to, our real lives and then not care about the game anymore. But we had so much fun playing together, really. We realized that the state of wormhole space in general and the meta in wormhole space was so much fun that we just decided we might as well give it a shot and start playing again. So we've been playing together again for the past 1.5 years as like a kind of normal corporation. Then, yeah, the other weekend, the eviction of a few happened, right? A Forsaken few happened. Yeah, we'd been looking at evicting them for quite a while. They were one of the aggressors in the last war for Wormhole Space against Laserhawks and against us in the end. And they never really like took a peace deal or whatever that means. But more than that, we felt like it was a great opportunity for content. They anchored a Keepstar at some point. From their messaging to us, it also felt like they were kind of expecting it or like welcoming the eviction and waiting for the fight, right? And wanting to fight. And we felt like they would give a very big fight. So that's the main reason why we went on to evict them and took so much time to plan that. And then we got the fight, which was, I think, in the end, the biggest fight that ever happened in Wormhole Space, at least as far as ISK value. So, yeah.
And let me ask you this: like you said, they were the aggressors. Were they one of the groups that did evict you guys when you guys lost Rage there?
No, like the loss of Rage was 3 or 4 years ago
That
when
was
Enoch
us.
first evicted us. Yeah. No,
True.
I don't even think they were around back then. I don't even remember them
Okay.
being around back then. Yeah. So I think as far as like personal grudges from that eviction goes, we've dealt with anyone that we really cared about, and there's not really any anyone
guys
left that we care
quietly-
about. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have been quietly just flattening Wormhole Space over the last few years and let everybody know HK is back. No, it's awesome to see you guys back in full force. And, you know, this is the first thing for me. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers out there who see us, who see this, they're like, oh man, HK is back. They're evicting a freaking Keepstar. But Laserhawks has been around for a while. You guys are good friends with Laserhawks, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's funny how that goes, right? Because like at least in Wormhole Space, everybody knows kind of like the situation of things. Yeah, I mean, HK and Laserhawks has been friends for, I mean, ever since I've been playing the game really. Yeah, Laserhawks never stopped playing the game, right? So they're still around. They've been around the entire time. The only difference is that like we quit for a little bit, we came back, and now I mean things are the same as before we quit, really, as far as I'm concerned, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as this is concerned, I know there was a big update, the Legion update here, a month ago, maybe 2 months ago now, where we rolled back one of the controversial updates that CCP did with the strategic strike, you know, putting resist back to where they were. Did this update kind of help you guys do what you did? Did that play into anything that you guys did with this eviction?
Made it more difficult, I would say. I mean, for those that don't know, like, Forsaken Few, they lived in a what's called a Class 4 wormhole, and it was a pulsar wormhole. And a pulsar wormhole gives a very big boost to shield HP. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's like 100% or something in a C4, like a lot, right? Like it almost doubles your shield HP. So you can imagine that. And the other thing with it being a Class 4, there's no capital connections going into the system, so it means we're not able to bring our own capitals unless we wanted to siege the wormhole for enough time to build capitals, which is like 10, 11 days. Too long, right? Too long. So our main concern the entire time was like, what if they undock like 30 buffer fit Phoenix Navy issues? And if you look at the math on
Looked like they
Python
did.
stats,
Yeah, what you mean these ones?
yeah, they undocked 30, but lucky for us, they were mostly active fit, right? So it worked out. But if they
Got
were
it.
all buffer fit, that's with Nirvanas and a pulsar, that's 40 million HP each. I mean, that's a lot of.
That's wild.
That's a lot to
Dave,
grind
is
through,
that
right?
super HP? Like
What, 40?
40? Yeah. I don't
Lower
fly super rad.
end.
Most niggas like
Lower end
Lower end,
super.
still, that's up there. That's up
Yeah,
there.
that's like
Keep
a
in mind-
HAL without its Nirvanas. Kind of.
That's a lot of HP, and then without us being able to bring capitals as well, means that, I mean, you survive the 5 minutes, right, against subcaps with 40 million HP. You just de-siege and you catch reps from the faxes, right? So it's a very hard situation to fight. That was kind of our worst case scenario, and of course with the surgical strike reversals in general, I am a big fan of the patch. I think it does a lot of good things as far as Wormhole Space is concerned for like general fights. But in the specific case in this eviction, it would have made it more difficult if they'd undocked the right comp, yeah.
Is there anything like I've talked to Mick? I'd like to say I'm good friends with Mick. I've known Mick for years in EVE Online. I knew him. He's been in Novak, I think, forever. With that group is where I met him. Was good friends with him when we were in Rote. Mick, I'm gonna call you out a minute if you're watching. I don't remember if it was you or Stokes who did this, but when I was FCing our Pochfin defense of Astra House, our last one, I think it was you and Oracle who kept your drones on the Astra House. And it eventually died to frat with 3 seconds left on the rep timer. So always that was a fond memory of Mick. I always associate him with it. If it wasn't Mick, and someone correct me if it was Stokes, it was one of you guys, and you both are trouble and good friends of mine. But I do have a question, for you, man. You talked about the strategy about sieging the wormhole for 10, 11 days. And what does that look like? What is the strategy? What goes into an eviction? Because I think I'm going to venture to say a lot of our chat have no idea the work that goes into this.
So in general, with an eviction, so we ended up sieging the wormhole for 4 days in total, right? To get all the timers going. The general strategy is you bring as many people as you can really into the wormhole, and then each wormhole has either 1 or 2 like static connections that'll, like, if you close them, they'll always respawn, right? You can close them by putting enough mass through them, like enough battleships. And the general idea is really, as the attacker, you do not want the defenders to get anyone in. Because generally speaking, at least in wormhole politics, defending someone is seen as very normal and non-controversial, right? And attacking someone is seen as very like that's a political statement, right? So in generally speaking, when somebody gets attacked, they're gonna have a very, very easy time finding anyone really that will help defend them. In the case of the the Forsaken Fear Eviction, we had, I don't know, 100, 200 people ready to come into their home hole to help defend if they ever get an entrance just in wormhole space. And I don't know how many nullsecers exactly, right, would have come to aid them as well. So you want to keep those connections completely closed. So really, you have a fleet on docked or at least on standby, ready to go 24/7, and you're camping those 2 entrances 24/7, like a gate camp basically, right? Like you have bubbles up, you have dictors, you have insta-lockers, you have people ready to kill stuff, right? The enemy will try to get scanners through. They'll try to get like a normal space entrance. They'll relay that to their allies, who will try to start getting it in shuttles. Once that starts happening, which is fairly inevitable at some point, you have to close the connection and the next one before they do, like get those battleships out to put mass on the wormhole and start camping it all over again. And you do that for 4 days straight, basically 24/7 around the clock without like no interruption at all. Like you drop the ball for 10 minutes and you're done basically.
Yeah, it is a dedication, man. And it's something I've been involved in a few evictions back in the day. Several years ago with wholesale, we evicted a few peeps, and you definitely have to have that crew, because it doesn't have to be, in my experience, 50, 60 people who are sitting there all the time at their keyboard. It can really be a few guys who are just ahead of it, on top of it with scanning. You get that doorstop in place. For those who don't know a doorstop, you'd have maybe a carrier or something like that. I don't know if you guys had a cap that was able to do this, but had something that could roll the hole pretty quick and close it. You might leave a connection up. So like one of the strategies, and I don't know if you guys did this here, one of the strategies that we did was crit the hole, you leave it open so you don't have other connections. You have to go find it. And then if you see somebody coming, you go close it real quick so they can't get there, and you start that again. So correct me if I'm a little dated on how you guys still do it. So
the general principles of hole control, I feel like I've been the same for the past 10 years or something. I mean, not much has changed except for Friggles, really, but details.
Did Friggholes play in chat? For if you're not aware what a Frigghole is in wormhole space, we're learning about wormholes today, chat. So I hope you are buckled up, and everybody's going to apply to Hard Knox or Laserhawks now and want to go join.
I know nothing about wormholes, so
Dave is like learning everything here.
I
so
can't jump to a Sino there? Nah, not going.
You can light them though. You can light a Sino. For those of you who aren't aware, you can light one. You just can't jump to it. So for those of you who are not aware, Frigghole is just the mass of the ship that's allowed through the hole. So only a frigate, I think T3 destroyers can fit through them, that kind of thing. It restricts the type of frigs that go through. Friggholes also, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, believe the only ones that regen mass, so you can't collapse them. It makes them really difficult to collapse. So, did they play any kind of back and forth? When I look at the battle report, it looks like it's just the Forsaken, that their group on there. I see like 12 frat, that kind of thing. It looks like you guys did a good job though.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So with Friggles, I mean, I feel old now, right? Because it's been Friggles way back in the day. I think they changed this 5 or 6 years ago. You were still able to roll them with using very specific mechanics, but nowadays these Friggles, right? Like this is wormhole where only frigates can come through, and there's no way for you to close that connection. So yeah, basically, if one of those holes spawns, especially during eviction, then anyone can come in, right? Because there's a wormhole where only frigates can come in that nobody can close. Most groups will have like handout chips, right, for their defense. So people just need to bring shuttles through there, nullify their insta warp, right? There's very little you can do to stop them. So we got very lucky this time that not a single frig hole spawned in their wormhole. We did a very good job on hole control, so almost nobody got in. The frat tunes were the alts of one of their guys that was a dual citizen with frat. That was just like one of their members really and his alts. Been a bit of a running joke because generally speaking, friggles are quite rare. But almost every time we do a big eviction, it feels like a friggle spawns right before the whole timers, and 1,000 people get in, and it becomes a massive mess, right? But this time that didn't happen, unfortunately for Forsaken Few, luckily for us, of course, right? So yeah, we did a good job at controlling the hole, and they didn't really get anybody in to help them defend.
And as we continue to talk about hole control and the strategy here, did they have, and you mentioned they had a couple hundred people, did they have a couple hundred people actively trying to get in the wormhole, and who were they like aligned with?
So like I said before, there's like when it comes to defending a wormhole, it's fairly uncontroversial. So a lot of like random people will show up to help defend.
Got it.
And to us as well, like if a group helps, like for example, a lot of groups helped Forsaken Few, they try to come in to defend. We don't view that as like an act of aggression or like a statement against us or whatever. It's just a natural way of things, right? And they're very welcome to try and defend Forsaken Few. That's completely fine. They mainly focused on rage rolling. So maybe I should explain what rage rolling is for the audience that doesn't know wormholes.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So, for example, in this case, Forsaken Few, they had a C4 wormhole. There's only 530 something C4 wormholes in the game, a relatively small amount. And another wormhole that has a C4 static, right? If you close that C4 wormhole within 60 seconds, a new C4 will spawn. So what a group will do when they try to what we call rage roll into another wormhole is close their connection over and over and over, and roll, like a new C4 wormhole over and over until they get to the target destination, which is a 1 in 500 chance in this case every time. There was a group that tried that. We obviously we got some alts in there, right, with like Cloaky Tengus and Chemo Proteases to try and disrupt that. We did a little bit of disrupting, which slowed them down. We're not very fast at rolling. They didn't roll that long, in my opinion, like maybe 6 hours a day, which compared to what you should be doing is not that long. So they never got in.
They weren't committed to it, man.
Not enough, in my opinion, at least, right? I think if they were committed enough to it, they had a good chance of getting in, but they were slow. They didn't roll very long, so they never got in.
Have you, and this is a personal question I have, I don't know if I've ever heard it answered to one way or another. Does the wormhole spawn if you warp to it or not? Like, has that ever been answered? Does anybody figure that out? Like, if you don't warp to the SIG, like you scan the SIG down and nobody warps to it.
It's a good question, actually. I'm not 100% sure personally either. I don't think it does, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that.
No, you're good, man.
Yeah.
I feel like this is plenty of eviction fleets I've been on where we've debated about whether or not it spawns if you warp to it or not. Like, no, don't warp to the SIG yet.
It's like if a tree falls over in the woods, nobody's there to hear it.
Yeah.
I noticed something interesting on the Keepstar's kill mail, which would probably confuse a lot of nullsec people. Maybe you can shine some light on it. That fit.
Just the Keepstar itself?
Yeah. I get what they may be going for, but I'm just so confused.
Same.
Like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I see what they're going for, but
is it subcap fit?
No,
I didn't look at it.
Full
There's no
newt.
guns in it. Yeah, it's full newt. Yeah.
Oh,
and it's got 3 plates and 2 cap recharges.
I think that's been kind of a pattern with the theory crafting of Forsaken Few. Is like you keep seeing that there's a lot of effort put into thinking about the fits. Like the effort, somewhere along like the theory crafting route, it's gone into
But,
the wrong
yeah,
path, you know?
the amount
Galaxy
of
Brain,
damage
that's what I
that Keep could have done to the battleships there if it had its guns is insane.
I mean, okay,
Like,
to be fair, the Keepstar was timed at, I think, 1400 Eve time. We still
Mhm.
don't understand why, because they're a US time zone group. So, I mean, no fight was ever going to happen over the Keepstar. So, generally speaking, I mean, the fate of the Keepstar really did not matter that much. Does that make sense?
Which,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
and
it's
this
just
and I'm glad you mentioned that, because this brings me into like the next question I have is like, how did the battle report kind of play out? So I look at the battle reports over several days. Obviously, there was a fight. It did not look like it was over the Keepstar. Walk us
no.
through kind of how this all happened.
Yeah, so their Keepstar was timed, of course, at 1400 Eve time, which is an awful time zone for basically anyone playing this game, except for like Russians and people from AUTZ. And they were USTZ group. Most of their fortizers were timed like deep US time zone, like 06, 0700-ish, 0500. So we kind of expected them. I mean, we had a spy in our group, right? Which is a public knowledge at this point. There's been a Reddit thread about it as well. So I mean, we expected, but we also kind of knew they would fight in US time zone. Um, and in the end, they decided to make their stand. Their kind of plan was they had several allies trying to rage roll in. They were kind of hoping for a friggle to spawn. So their plan was to just wait as long as possible, basically doing nothing and just preparing for the fight. We hoped that some allies would get in somehow. And when that didn't happen, they decided to just throw it all at a whole timer of one of their fortizers, which was timed for US time zone. So that's kind of what happened in the end, right? Like they undocked their however many Phoenix Navies and stuff and the Thunder Shells for one of the whole timers in US time zone and just full sent it. And like hoping they would win the fight and save their wormhole basically.
yeah, that didn't go too well for them.
No, I did not. No.
I think that's the most lopsided battle report I have seen since the second fight at M2. Like,
Yeah, it was quite lopsided, yeah.
it's impressively bad.
And why a hold timer? Do you was there like, in my logic, like, why not fight over an armor timer if you've got more than one fort in there? Try to drag it out and play a war of attrition for as long as you can. Because yes, you guys had whole control, and it sounds like they weren't able ever to get it. But I'm sure they had stockpiles of just ships they could throw at you and try to make this as painful as possible. And then also, if they could drag it out longer, they could probably maybe get a frig hole or something, get some friends in. So, do you understand? Like, maybe you can shed some light on why a whole timer there they decided, or did they just feel like it was done and they were going to throw whatever they had?
I think it's like ideally, if you talk about the meta or like the optimal strategy, I think fighting over the whole timer is the worst possible moment to fight, right? I think
Yeah.
day one, when the attackers are still organizing and disorganized, is a very strong time to choose for fighting. Armor timers, so you have some time to prepare, and then there's timers they have to worry about. Maybe you try to fight for a wormhole while they have to worry about pausing timers. That's very strong as well. Fighting over a whole timer, it's too late to fight at that point anyways. I think it's in the history of wormhole space, I don't recall a single time where a fight over wormhole over whole timer has actually panned out for the defenders, right? Or at least it's
I think
rare.
that's just the history of Eve, really. That one.
I mean, yeah,
because you just
yeah,
got to be
fair,
willing
yeah.
to throw enough stuff at that structure. You know?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And as the attacker, you have whole control. Like I can bring my pods back in when my people die, right? If their people die and they get potted out, they're out, right? There's no clone base in wormhole space. I mean, there is, but you can't respawn in those clone bases at least. So it's kind of over. We know when a guy dies, and you're already outnumbered at that point. So yeah, but I do understand from the defender's perspective is like, I mean, like me personally, I've done evictions of this size, or my group, like Hard Knox and Laserhawk, we've done evictions of this size with the same leadership team for quite a few times, right? Like we are fairly experienced when it comes to these very, very large scale wormhole fights and the meta that happens there. Forsaken Few never have, right? That never attacked someone on this scale, then they're defended. Then of course it's very scary because then suddenly you feel like shit, like my whole wormhole's on the line. So they probably felt like they had to prepare as best as possible for the fight, and they were not confident in unlocking day one right away and just sending it. They probably just spent 3 or 4 days just preparing that perfect fleet in their mind at least. to have the best chance at fighting.
Sounds like there was a lot of hesitation on their part from what you're saying. Like, to your point,
Absolutely.
there is what kind of kicked this off for me, just so you know, I have the EVE Online Facebook, and they posted a picture of the POS that you guys put up across from the Keepstar. And that's when I reached out to Mick. It was like, Mick, what's going on in this wormhole? It seems like some big stuff's going on. So that to me is like allowing someone to set up a POS. You're very vulnerable when you're going to siege a wormhole at that point, right? Like, you don't have anywhere to fall back to yet. You set up whatever, it's an Astra house, it's a POS, that kind of thing. That's when you have to make your fight. Like, in my opinion, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that's when I'm going to try to make my fight. It sounds like they like, all right, we're going to let them do everything, and we're just going to be ready for it. We've got all these caps. We can't. I'm assuming. I'm hoping they had a good attitude. Like, we're not going to lose. We'll kill battleships before we can kill caps. But it seems like there are some curious decisions to be made, because you're going to throw active caps on the field. I didn't look at this battle report extensively. I don't know if there was fact support. Was there fact support?
They had repping oracles and some lifts and a minnow.
Thank you. I looked through it. I don't know why I
4
missed
lifts,
them.
1 minnow, and then some of their oracles were set up
to.
Well, that one's set up to
so
mine.
It's like,
but yeah, set up to rep.
Well, maybe listen. This could have been like, hey, we're gonna throw the towel in. We're gonna make it a cool fight, get some kills, good fights in local. We lost. We weren't gonna get our friends in. It could have been some of that going on too.
Yeah,
I mean, that's where the joke comes from. Like, wormholers are notoriously bad at EVE in a way, in the sense that, like, a group like Forsaken Few, they've never experienced a big fight, right? So they don't know that, like, in the fights that they've experienced, active tanked Dreadnoughts have always been better, because they never fight more than 40 or 50 guys without capital support, right? And then an active tank Dreadnought is better, because you can just permatank them for hours, right? And keep doing damage. And that's a lot of wormhole space. They've never experienced these kinds of fights on this scale. They don't know that, like, just buffer fit your dreads, right? Like, you don't need to throw a 30 bill active fit on them. Just buffer fit them, and they will be much better, because the active fit will just get broken and die so much faster than any active, than any passive fit ever would. And little things like that, it's a lack of experience in these kind of fights that really,
Are they
turns into battle reports like these.
Did this break their back, or is there? I mean, I know it's only been a few days, and I'm sure you guys are probably still in there, because back in my day, I'm an old guy. We used to, you would save your stuff by loading up orcas and freighters and go logging them off somewhere. So you're hoping to try to catch those in the next few days. But any signs, like, I don't like seeing when a group completely dies. You guys got evicted. Hard Knox is still around. I'm hoping Forsaken Few stays around.
Yeah, me too, absolutely. From our understanding, they're planning on leaving Wormhole Space, so they're at least have made statements that say that they're going to leave Wormhole Space. Where they're going to end up next is, I don't know. But Forsaken Few, we had a spy in there, right? So I have a fairly good understanding of how their group is set up. It felt like a very strong, like, community as well. Does that make sense? Like, they were not just about playing EVE, they were playing other games as well. They were all friends. So I'm sure they'll stick around at some point. I don't think an event like this is going to actually break them. They might leave Wormhole Space, which is a shame, but, it happens. Maybe they'll join some Nullsec Alliance, go to Lowsec with TD Sin, or go to Puffchen, who knows?
Turn up and down.
I'm fairly confident. Yeah.
TD Sin.
Who knows, right?
TD Sin can go kick rocks, because I have, like, an extensive history with TD Sin, being on the other side of being shot by TD Sin. I led a feat. I don't know if you're familiar with Digital Chess Session. They're in wormholes for a while. Small group of people. Well, I led a fleet once to go defend, and them getting evicted. This was years ago, back when Vec was still in wholesale, and TD Sin was the one sieging said wormhole. I got some bad intel, took a fight, fed some caps, and slept nears, but neither here nor there. And then recently, when I was in a group called United Federation of Conifers out in, where the heck were we? Freaking Syndicate. TD Sin killed my Phoenix Navy twice, or maybe once, I don't remember, but I fed, I think, the Phoenix Navy twice. But and they dropped dreads on me. Now they fed their dreads too, but hey, it was a good fight. But I have a little bit of a grudge to pick with TD Sin there. But more importantly, as we kind of move this conversation into, we talked about orcas and freighters and that kind of thing. What did you guys, and I think the chat is probably curious too, what did you guys get out of this? Like, how much ISK did we get out of that?
Because
as far as ISK value goes, yeah, of course.
So, for those that don't know, if we got null set people watching that have never been in a wormhole in their life, when you blow up a structure in a wormhole, it will do what an abandoned structure does and drops everything. So, for instance, when we blew up Hard Knox's keep, we were there for, and the reason for this question is we were there for like 3 days picking up the, this isn't me gloating, by the way, picking up the loot and stuff, because there is just that much, especially if it's a Keepstar where everybody puts their stuff. So just for a bit of context for the null seckers that maybe Care Bears and have never been in a wormhole. So yeah.
So for second few were pretty good about, they were fairly prepared. I think they expected that they would get evicted at some point. So they had most of their people had freighters that they would use to like log off a bunch of assets in, right? Even then, I think last I heard, at least from the leadership channels, is the total loot haul was about 750 billion ISK. Like I said before, evictions like these, we expected them to save a large part of their assets. And there's also quite a significant investment in ISK that goes into organizing the eviction. These kinds of evictions are usually not about the ISK, right? I mean, 750 is a good amount of ISK, of course. But when spread around the groups that turned up, right, and the amount of time we put in, it's not really worth it just for the ISK. We're there for the fight. We got the fight, and we were happy. But yeah, about ISK, yeah, it was about 750 that dropped from other structures combined, yeah. That we hauled out to high sec at least.
So can we like, so I'm getting some live intel, Victor, from somebody who said it looks like you guys saved a can worth about 200 bill just before downtime that they tried to deny. What's that about?
It's a funny story. So at some point they collected, like they had their freighters to save log stuff, but of course there's limited amount of space in freighters, and they realized they had at least 250 billion ISK worth of assets that they had collected that they couldn't save with their freighters. So they decided, like in Wormhole space, you can eject the can from a structure, right? And their plan was to then launch fighters to kill the structure, to kill the can, and then it will be gone forever. It doesn't drop any loot, right? So like talking about the Keepstar fit, if the Keepstar had guns, they could have just killed the can and that was it. But instead, that they dropped the can drops around 200 kilometers, I think, from the Keepstar, and then launch fighters to try and kill the can. And as you know, when the Keepstar is reinforced, you cannot reload the fighter bays. So, I mean, we had a spy on comms, right? So we knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
When they launched the cans, we immediately undocked all our ships, killed the fighters, and there's nothing they could do anymore.
That's the
and
big...
we were able to loot that can.
That's the big issue of trying to use Citadel fighters for anything, really. They're very susceptible, especially if you've got a ton of rogues there, for instance, to getting absolutely obliterated the second they're launched, because they're just a target. That's why people don't normally use them.
I was surprised, and Dave mentioned rogues, so we're going to go back to the kind of the battle strategy here for a minute. Now that I think about it, and first of all, it's kind of demoralizing. Somebody's just listening, and it's like you already know, and they could have neutered the can, I guess. That's obviously
quick nuke the can,
right? Nuke the can. But I have a question though, and I don't want to. It sounds like these guys. Hopefully they learn some valuable lessons here and they can take it and apply it and be successful wherever else they go, because I want to see groups thrive regardless. I don't want to make fun of someone's demise, but it is EVE. I enjoy kicking sandcastles over. That's all I do. All I've ever done in EVE is PvP. So, but at the same time, I do want to see the game be successful. But why rogues? I figured nightmares, Macarials were really popular for a little bit. It's just they're cheaper, easier. Why did you guys choose rogues?
Yeah, good question. So we figured in the end, like what faction battleships really offer usually is more tank, right? Not necessarily that much more damage, especially when you look at range. We figured in a pulsar, there's, as far as capitals goes, there's two viable strategies. It's cruise Phoenix Navy issues, which is what they ended up doing. So cruise missiles, they actually apply to subcaps in a pulsar, right? Like you paint them a couple of times. The sake of a subcap is very big, and the cruise missile will do like 50, anywhere between 50 and 80,000 alpha, right? If you have 30 of them, I mean, any subcap in the game will just die. It does not matter if you bring nightmares or a T1 battleship.
True.
So we figured there's no point in bringing like 1 or 2 billionist battleships because they'll die just as fast really as T1 battleships. So then you're left with the option of T1 battleships. And there, I think, quite quickly we narrowed it down to either Ravens or Rogues. And our issue with Ravens is, these guys were already, they knew how to firewall missiles, right? They'd done it before, many fights. Ravens just cruise missiles, right? You'll get firewalled. So then the option was really Rogues, right? We can sit at 200 kilometers with Spike and just shoot shit without worrying about it, without worrying about firewalls or anything. They get, I think, 400 or 500,000 HP in a pulsar. Ridiculous numbers. It's a pulsar, right? And they're cheap.
Yeah.
So we can just make many of them, and then if people die, escape a frigate, warp back to the Citadel, get a new one, and keep fighting, really, right? So that was the plan.
Yeah. And Ganook asked in chat, what is a firewall? Nook, a firewall is when you have, I see Nestors use, you can use anything, honestly. You put a bunch of smart bombs on like a battleship typically because they have a bigger, radius, that kind of thing. And you position them out in front of the fleet as to screen, because missiles are actually individually like in the game, like their own spaceship. They have their own HP, that kind of thing.
Much like bombs.
So as the missiles as they fly through space, especially like big heavy missiles, torpedoes, cruise missiles, are a little bit slower. You can blow them up before they ever get to their target. And it's a very common target. And it's one of the reasons why Ravens they're still around. People still use them, of course. But if you have a good group, Snuffed Out's really good at it, that kind of thing, you can firewall those missiles off the field and you completely neuter them. I've FC'd Ravens and been up against a very effective firewall that Snuff put up against me, and it is very demoralizing. And you're just like, well, this really sucks because I can't trade with you right now. So definitely a good call on your part to use Rogues over Ravens.
It's normally the battleships with bigger models as well, so like Nestors and Vindicators and stuff like that. The more tank and the bigger the model, the better. But they are a pain in the ass until they die, and then suddenly you're killing everything.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Vic, it looks like one of your students wants you to come back to class. So they said you called you a math teacher. So looks like someone's having fun with you in chat there. Dave, that's all the questions I have. I think we're coming up. We got a couple more minutes left. I'm going to hand it over to you, sir, and let you take us out.
Well, I do actually have one thing to bring up on the nullsec front a little bit. Hang on, we're going to use this transition I haven't actually ever used before. So, on the note of Ash's perma-war, we actually have an update. Another region has fallen in the last few months, last month and a half, without contest from Horde. The region of Cash has now fallen, adding to the large stack of regions. All that remains are a few Horde renters over here, but FNT has taken Cash, so Horde are now essentially trapped in the drone lands and their outer passage, which I don't think anybody wants to be in there. So it looks like exciting things to come. It's literally all I had for that. But it is important news that we have now pushed them back into the drone lands fully.
They're in their own little corner now.
Yes.
So Horde next, right?
Horde are contained.
What is they're staging MJ by Christmas, right? Hard Knox is going to be there, right? Victor, you guys going to come help shoot Horde? Or are you guys friends with the Horde? I don't know.
The staging is E8.
We don't really care about Gnostic politics, right? Like we're Wormholders. Like,
that's right.
do our own
It's
thing.
the Horde that wins. We haven't seen.
Yeah, I haven't found them yet, but here we are. Anyway, on that note, thank you for watching, guys. Check out our other shows on INN. That's what I was going to say. We've got a viewer poll as well. I'm a bit thrown off after that. That we'd like you to check out if I bloody spell it right. And fill it in. Let us know how we're doing on INN. We have a lot of exciting shows to come up from both me and Keith and other people. But until then, let's go with final thoughts. Victor, let's start with you.
Final thoughts. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think I would like to say that Sting of You gave a very good fight, and I respect them for that, right? I think they fought harder than most people that have fought in Wormhole Space in a very long time. They gave it a go. They made a lot of mistakes, but in their position, that's quite to be expected because they just don't have the experience to make the right decisions. And I hope that as a group, they survive and go on to thrive in whatever part of space they decide to play on, to be honest, yeah.
I think that's kind of the important thing as well. Nobody wants to see a group, fall. But much the same as no one in Goons really that's in the know wants to see Horde fall, for instance, because it removes content. Wow. So be it in wormholes, low sec, null sec, whatever, it's always good if a group continues on. And from what you said about them with their community and stuff, I think that's what holds groups together after something like that. It is the community. So hopefully they find their place. Maybe wormholes is not for them. Or they shouldn't annoy the wrong people in a wormhole. Who knows? But hopefully they land on their feet somewhere. And we see from them again. Keith, what are your final thoughts other than kill Horde?
Yeah, that's right, kill Horde. No, Victor, I want to say thank you for coming on. Really enjoyed talking to you and catching up about what's going on in Wormhole Space. I'd like to say Wormhole Space is really what got me into the game fully, is where I started in EVE Online with wholesale mostly, and definitely FC'd my fair share of stuff. And one of the common rules of thumb, at least at the time, was we'd only evict people who weren't there to fight. We hated, well, quote unquote, crabs. So really good to see. I mean, we can argue about how wormholers are probably some of the biggest crabs in EVE Online, but if people didn't give us good fights, we go in and be like, hey, look, we're not going to have you in Wormhole Space. So it's definitely good to see that these guys, to what you said, gave a fight at the end of the day. They tried their best. Hopefully they learned some valuable lessons from this and go and thrive, whether it's back in Wormhole Space again. Maybe they'll come to Delve and add to the fray there. Hey, maybe the Imperium's recruiting. Imperium. I don't know if block life's for them. But hey, you know what? Wish them nothing but the best. But that's all I got, Dave.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that is all from us. We will see you guys next week. Sorry about last week. It's just some IRL things came up for people. So, but we will see you next week with another interesting show. But until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.